So you think Bridget's team are actually briefing against you?
Well, some of what's been said has come from them.
And have you spoken to her directly about that?
A little bit.
Lucy says that your camp have been briefing against her, have they?
Not to my knowledge.
And have you spoken to her about it?
No.
Lucy Powell, welcome to Electoral Dysfunction. Now, I'm used to being with two powerhouse women of British politics, my co-hosts Harriet Harman and Ruth Davison. So today should be quite comfortable because we're doing a double interview special with two different powerhouse women in British politics. It's you and it's Bridget Phillipson, because you're both running to be deputy leader of the Labour Party. And we've got lots to get into. But my first question is this, Lucy, you are a big Man City fan, so you know how it feels to win. You're nailed on as the favourite in this leadership race as well, aren't you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, let's see what happens. Polls are polls, aren't they? But people have actually got to vote. So, yeah, I've seen Man City be favourites and not win. Not as much as Arsenal, obviously. I'm sorry, Beth. But
That's true.
We'll see. People are still voting, so we don't know yet the outcome.
OK, but you're definitely not the underdog in this race.
Well, no, I am the underdog because, I don't have a machine behind me.
So you've got to work harder to get exposure.
Absolutely.
But you have been all around the country. My question for you is, how many places have you visited and what was your favourite meal?
So I've hardly had any meals.
Oh,
I keep being really hungry. Do you know what? I was given some lovely samosas yesterday in Brighton.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, from a Labour Party member who owns a little restaurant round the corner from where we were. We went and got some hot, fresh samosas for me.
That sounds all right. Are you basically like eating in service stations, having a sort of sandwich?
Yeah, trains mainly.
God. Now, look, Labour has had many deputy leaders over the past century. There are too many to name, but there are big figures. There's John Prescott, Clement Attlee, Harriet Harman, Margaret Beckett, Angela Rayner. Who are you most like?
I think I'm a bit of a combo of them all in many ways.
Tell me which characteristics you take from which one.
Well, Harriet, I work closely with Harriet. I mean, Harriet's kind of very, very formidable and feisty and gets things done.
You're quite feisty.
Angela's kind of northern and gritty and sort of connected with her kind of community. I think I've got a bit of that. John Prescott, campaigner in chief.
You're pitching it, Lucy, as being the outsider, the voice of members. You've said publicly you think the government needs more challenge, you want it to move away from groupthink, and that Number 10 is sometimes run like a boys' club. You'd like less of that. But you were in government but a month ago. What do you say to people that say you are part of the problem?
I support this government. I want this government to succeed. And I think to be more successful, because let's be honest, we can't sugarcoat where we are right now in terms of the polls and some of the decisions that we've made. Things are difficult. I think to be more successful, we do need to listen to broader voices. We do need to reconnect back with the communities that we're here to serve, and we do need to give a much clearer sense of our purpose and what this Labour government is for. And I think having a narrower group of people around the table at the top of things, leads to those mistakes and missteps. It's not a good thing.
I mean, you've talked about being the shop steward, and you've talked about being a voice in the government that kind of for the members or MPs. Do you think that that's part of the reason you were kicked out of government? Because there has been lots of rumours that you were, there's been briefings against you saying that you were briefing and leaking and you can't be trusted, that you were corralling the MPs around the welfare.
Well, I've never leaked or briefed the whole time I'm in government. You know me, Beth, and other journalists will advocate for me. And this murky world of kind of anonymous briefings where names aren't put to things, is part of the culture that I really think we need to end here, because it is deeply unhealthy for our politics to sort of smear people and say these things. It's it was my job as leader of the Commons, working with the Chief Whip, we're collectively known as the business managers, to make sure government legislation is supported and has got through. So that's our job. So when we can see those difficulties coming, it's our job to relay that. That is not me organising it. That is not me encouraging it. Others in government in number 10 were briefing that this was a revenge reshuffle, not me. And if you look at who was moved around and who was given the sack, then there must be some truth in that.
This is just what a Labour source told the New Statesman. This is what they said of you. Lucy was sacked from cabinet because she couldn't be trusted not to brief or lead. She fundamentally lost the trust of colleagues. The idea she would be welcomed back or wouldn't have her access restricted is laughable. I mean, how do you feel like when you're being briefed against like that? Does it upset you? Does it make you angry?
I mean, it's just plain wrong. And I think some of these things have also come from my my opponent's team as well. And I think they need calling out. We are two strong women standing in this contest. We've both got different things to bring to the job, to the table. I'm not going to get into the business of smearing and briefing against Bridget at all. I've spent this whole campaign being completely positive about me and what I bring. And do you know what, Beth? I mean, I've probably done 30 interviews, 40 interviews. Nothing I've said since the moment I was sacked from cabinet or been running in this deputy leadership, nothing I've said has caused a story or a problem for the government.
So you think Bridget's team are actually briefing against you?
Well, some of what's been said has come from them.
And have you spoken to her directly about that?
A little bit.
And how? What?
But
did you say let's just not do that?
Well, I think we should not do that. Yeah. We should not do that.
And did she agree with you on that?
I've been branded as divisive, and there's nothing that's further from the truth about that.
Did you kind of have a gentleman's? Not that you're gentlemen. Did you have a woman's agreement on that?
I just think, look, we're two colleagues. We've worked together for the last 15 months. I've got a lot of time and respect for Bridget. I think she's been a really good Education Secretary. She's delivered some really important things for this Labour government. She's got a good track record of what she's done. And I'm not in the business of throwing mud or making this difficult for anybody, because that in the end affects us all. And my loyalty is to the party and what's in the best interest of the party. And having us, airing our dirty washing, throwing mud, both in this campaign or indeed after this, when, if I get elected as deputy leader, that is not the game that I'm in.
Just on Bridget, you have known her a long time. On paper, you've got a lot in common. You're both straight talking Northern Labour women. You came in Parliament, into Parliament at similar times. Neither of you are of the hard left, and neither of you really are New Labour. So there's quite a lot of, in a way, sort of similarities between you in some ways. Are you kind of frenemies at the moment?
No, not at all.
What's the sort of?
No, not at all. Look, I mean, we do have things in common, but I think I can provide a stronger, more independent voice. The party is withering on the vine at the same time, and people have got big jobs in government to do. Politics is moving really, really fast. Government is very, very slow. And I think having a full-time political deputy leader right now is the political injection we need.
So you, just to be clear, even if the PM asked you to go back and serve in cabinet, you would not do that in this role?
No, because I think that the role that's needed now is a different one. As I say, it's not Deputy Prime Minister. It's a very different job. And I think, I'm sure at some point you'll talk to Angela too. Angela and she did a great job, and she was our deputy leader. She had a huge department she was running. She was Deputy Prime Minister as well. And of course, that does bring with it some compromises at times. It does bring with it restraints, because you're, on the one hand, you're trying to negotiate something for your department, and on another, there's a thing happening in another area that you as deputy leader might actually intervene in, but it's just a bit more of a challenge. I want to get the politics back in the conversation. We've got some really important elections next May. I don't want to waste a day. I'm not prepared to let us lose councillors or Senate members or MSPs because we haven't got our act together here nationally. Deputy leader of the Labour Party with a direct mandate from the PLP and the members is a very powerful role, but it's one I'll use really responsibly. I'm not going to use it to be out on the airwaves making life difficult people. I'm going to use it to reconnect us back to our communities.
Well, you won't make it difficult for people unless they ignore you and don't actually include you and don't actually push through some of the things that the members want to be pushed through. Then you will get noisy, won't you? Of course you will.
Well, in the family, I'll make my views known, within the conversation. And I think, people respect, everybody in the cabinet, everybody in the Labour Party respects what this role is.
You've seen the PM up close. You've worked in his cabinet and his government for 15 months. What's his biggest strength, do you think?
I think Keir's a good, decent person. He has good values at his heart. I think he's someone who likes to roll his sleeves up and get things done.
I mean, one thing I find quite curious about him as a leader and a prime minister is there is quite a disconnect, I think, between the Keir Starmer you might see behind the cameras that you might experience in the cabinet room and just behind the scenes, and then his public persona. You look at how the public feel about him. He is the most unpopular prime minister ever. Why is there such a disconnect?
People are looking for authenticity. They're looking for someone that they can connect with. They're looking for someone who's sort of grabbing the attention and all of that, and those big political figures. And what Keir brings to the table is something sort of slightly different, which is, someone who's very sort of stoic and determined and deliberative and gets things done in his way. And also he's faced huge, big challenges, big global challenges, big domestic challenges. And he sort of has to kind of set about doing those things, not just out on the airwaves talking about those things or offering kind of false promise and false hope. He and the rest of the cabinet, running their big departments, doing the work they've got, they don't have time to necessarily do that sort of political, that communications job, that storytelling job, which I think I can really help with. And that's something that I can do all the time.
Is that his biggest weakness, the inability to tell the story, to paint a picture, to take the public with him?
I think we've ceded the agenda as collectively, as a government too much. Over the last 15 months, I've called it ceding the sort of political megaphone. We've allowed others to grab hold of that
Nigel
political...
Farage is holding it.
He's holding it and he's setting the agenda. And we're in government and we should be setting the agenda. We've got a country and an economy that just doesn't work for ordinary working class communities, and it needs a fundamental rewire. These deep inequalities have grown and grown over recent years between regions, between class, between education, between security and work. And I think we're about rewiring this country and dealing with these deep inequalities. So you think
the government are doing a fundamental rewiring, but the public don't see it or feel it?
They don't see it all joining up together. We've done all these things, but they're not all necessarily joined up. We're not making them clear about the purpose and the agenda. And I think we've been too tactical at times and not strategic and principled.
Lucy, lots of people have sort of seen this leadership moment or this deputy leadership race as a sort of moment of a referendum on Starmer. And what I'm picking up from you when we chat is that you really are at pains to try and stress that you are not trying to be divisive. You're not going to work against the leadership.
Yes, I've been painted as things which I'm absolutely not.
Bridget said that you will create a rival power base in the party. She said that.
She's wrong about that. But she's misunderstanding the role. But that's not to say that I won't
Why is she saying that?
Well, you'll have to ask her, and you're speaking to her later. I think she's trying to kind of create some sense of jeopardy or something, I think. But,
right.
I just don't think it kind of stands up to any scrutiny whatsoever.
So,
and, is the first thing. And let's all just stick to our positive case. That would be my strong advice to Bridget on this, because I don't think that's worked for her in this campaign, if I can be honest.
One thing you are campaigning on is scrapping the two-child benefit cap. Now, will you take the credit for that if it happens in the budget? Do you think it will happen?
Well, I really hope it does happen. And I said before, look, I'm not here to kind of have an alternative policy platform, but I think the two-child benefit cap, it really speaks to, lifting it, really speaks to who we are and what our moral purpose is. We've been kind of in principle in favour of it for most of the time we've been in government, but that's not the message people have heard. Every day it's in place, there are hundreds more children falling into poverty as a result, and lifting it would, over the course of this parliament, lifting it would lift 500,000 children out of poverty. If we're not for that, I think we've got to ask ourselves what we are for. Yes, I have led the debate on it in this campaign, and Bridget supports that too. That's part of her brief as Education Secretary.
I've got to let you go, but I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
Right, we're going back to football.
I knew we'd end on football.
Let's end where now. You made a little dig about Arsenal to me,
Beth.
which I think's completely unnecessary and uncalled for. But you do love football.
I do.
I could discuss football with you.
Yeah.
I'd actually rather discuss football with you than
I'm a season
politics.
ticket holder at City. I've still managed to get to some games even in this campaign.
And every time Man City win, a little bit of me feels pained, and I think of you being really pleased about it. But you've been to a game with the Prime Minister.
Yeah,
what's it like watching football with the Prime Minister?
Well, it was hard. We went to see Arsenal City. It's one of those things you don't really want to kind of go loser to your boss, do you? So it was a draw. It was a draw, the game we went to, which was secretly.
Would you have done that at him?
No, I was secretly happy that it was
a draw, so that it wasn't awkward.
It wasn't orcs.
Okay, but who would you prefer to sit with at a football game? Andy Burnham, the Mayor of Manchester, or Keir Starmer?
Well, I'd have them on either side of me, Beth, and we'd all go for a drink after. We'd all have a beer after, and we'd all have a laugh.
Oh, I love it. Lucy Powell, thank you for joining me, and I know you've got to run. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
You. Bridget Phillipson, welcome to Electoral Dysfunction. And just to be clear, now you're obviously part of the government. You've got a massive job as Education Secretary and Minister for Women and Equalities. But this is about the deputy leadership race. So we're not going to spend ages talking about government and record in government. I might do a little tickle of that, but this is about the deputy leadership. But I'm going to start with this. Well, hello first. I actually haven't allowed you to say hello, which is rude.
Hello, good to be with you.
It's nice to see you. Now, you are the Education Secretary, the Minister for Women and Equalities. You're MP for Houghton and Sutherland South. You're a mother of 2 kids. Do you really have time to be the deputy leader as well? Do you have time?
Absolutely. Until recently, of course, Angela Rayner was deputy leader of the party, alongside doing a really big job in government. And the reason that she was so effective in that role was because at the heart of government, she was able to argue for what members wanted to see, able to kind of bring the heart and soul of the party into government. OK,
so you've got time. You've been travelling up and down the country. Has there been anywhere that you have never visited in this campaign? And what's been your most memorable meal on the campaign trail?
I've eaten a lot of meal deals at train stations, a bit like the general election campaign. Lots of meal deals from supermarkets at various train stations. I'm finding it increasingly hard just to schedule in the time to eat beyond eating a supermarket sandwich.
Well, you did mention before when we were doing the sound check that you didn't have breakfast. You've got to keep your strength up.
I mean, I do make sure, however, that I've got enough time allocated to drink plenty of iron brew, because that does keep me going on the campaign trail.
Is that the secret sauce of yours, iron brew?
Industrial quantities of sugar-free diet iron brew.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, OK.
Which they now stock in Parliament as well.
Well, look, Bridget, your roots are northern, working class, Roman Catholic, the same as my parents, actually. You were brought up by your mum, who founded the domestic violence charity. You've lived on a council estate. You went to a local school. You made it to Oxford and then into the cabinet. Yours has been quite an exceptional journey, hasn't it?
I feel incredibly fortunate to have gone from a council street in the northeast to the cabinet table, and I owe so much of that to the last Labour government and to the movement. I owe so much to the party. What I have the enormous privilege of doing right now is making sure that kids like me growing up today get some of those opportunities, and I want more opportunities for those children, because child poverty holds back so many kids. It's why I've made that my number one priority in this campaign.
I'm going to come on to some of the things in your campaign, and especially child poverty. So we'll get to that. But to come back to the leadership race, I mean, it was a surprise. Angela Rayner resigned from Cabinet and from the post of Deputy Leadership over the situation regarding her second home. Who was the first person you spoke to about running?
I mean, it was a surprise, and none of us saw it coming, and I didn't anticipate standing. I got quite a few people getting in touch with me saying, had I thought about going for it? And I kind of said, well, no, because I hadn't thought about it. And lots of particularly new intake Labour MPs were saying to me that I ought to think about going for it. So I thought about it. I had a chat with my husband, chat with my team, and thought, actually, I should go for it because I think I've got something to offer in this contest.
And did the PM ask you about it?
No, I've not spoken to him about it.
You are seen as an out-and-out Starmer loyalist. You, as you said, reappointed in his cabinet. You're in cabinet. You're kind of the inside candidate some would see. Is that a help or a hindrance to you?
Well, I'll stand on my own record, and I'm very much my own person. And
does it irritate you when people sort of say you're a stooge for Starmer?
Well, I want this government to succeed. That's what we all want. But I won't hold back in setting out in private, behind closed doors.
Yeah.
In those meetings, I'll be a part of what we need to do in order to get elected as a Labour government for a second term, and what we need to do ahead of the elections that we've got coming up next May in Scotland, Wales and across England.
And on deputy leaders over the past century, there's been some big figures: John Prescott, Clement Attlee, Harriet Harman, Margaret Beckett, Angela Rayner. Who are you most like?
I mean, the obvious answer to give would be I'll be my own person in that role. I think you learn different. No, but yeah, I've never really been one for, when people will often say, who's your political hero? And I can always come up with people that have inspired me. But for me, it goes beyond individuals, and it goes to who we are as a movement. I know that might sound a bit naff, but that is who I am as a person.
Well, look, what about Lucy Powell? Because she isn't in cabinet. She's your opponent in this. She's positioned herself as the outsider who can stand up to number 10 and have more time with members. There is some benefits, isn't there, to having someone that is outside the tent, not in it?
I think it will be highly unusual, and the way the role's been done in the past when we're in government is that the deputy leader is at the cabinet table and is in government able to get things done. So I think there are risks.
What are the risks?
I think it risks being destabilising. I think there is a risk that comes of airing too much disagreement in public at a time when we need to focus on taking the fight to our opponents. I know Lucy would reject that, but I think that is for me a key choice that members are facing, and I think it is entirely reasonable in a contest to set out both the positive vision for the role, but also highlight the dividing line that exists between you and your opponent, you and another candidate, you and another party.
Do you think it would be Lucy would be divisive then, because she would be outside the cabinet and she would be with a powerful position and her own autonomy in the party, and that would just stoke divisions? Is that what you think could happen?
I think it's not about the individual, it's about the principle of having that role outside of government that risks being the problem. I think I'll be able to get more done in government, and I'll be in the room when key decisions are taken.
Yeah. I mean, on this campaign, some people have said this campaign's been surprisingly vicious. Do you think it has, and do you take responsibility for some of that?
I think it has been a well-fought campaign so far. I think it's perfectly reasonable that in a contest you set out the dividing lines that you see it between your campaign and your opponent's campaign. I think that's entirely reasonable. That's the nature of politics.
Because the reason I ask is that there has been a lot of reporting about this, and Lucy says that your camp have been briefing against her. Have they?
Not to my knowledge.
And have you spoken to her about it?
No.
Because she said you'd spoken or you'd had some contact about it.
I haven't spoken to her directly. I don't know if there's been any discussion between the teams. I haven't spoken to her directly. I would just, however, gently observe that one of the most vicious stories of the campaign actually came my way with the entirely baseless suggestion in a newspaper that somehow we haven't published the EHRC's code of practice because I'm holding that because of the deputy leadership contest, which is entirely false.
I actually have a question on that. So, yeah, there is a story that you have delayed publishing guidance on single-sex spaces because you're worried Labour MPs will not vote for you if it's published ahead of this.
No,
is that just not true? That's just untrue.
That is entirely categorically untrue.
Okay.
So we received it as a government. I received it as the minister in charge at the start of September. It's been about 6 weeks now, so it's not been very long. It's a big document. We have to take the time to go through it to make sure that we get it right. And we had asked for additional information from the EHRC that we needed to sit alongside the code of practice that they sent us, some of which we've only just received. So I'm afraid I'm not the kind of person that would behave in that way. So the suggestion is wrong, but actually just on the process point, we're just doing what we need to do on this in order to get it right.
Let's get on to the what you were talking about earlier about your campaign about child poverty, and I know it's something that you personally feel strongly about. The two-child benefit cap, it bars families claiming the £292 a month child element of universal credit for the third and subsequent children born after April the 6th, 2017. You know all of this, but some of our listeners might not. The Child Poverty Action Group says 109 more children are pulled into poverty by this policy every single day. If it was scrapped, 350,000 children would be lifted from poverty instantly at a cost of $2 billion, and the depth of poverty would be reduced for another 800,000 children. Should it be lifted in full this year?
I think I've been clear, both in public and in private, for a long, long time, that the two-child limit has to be on the table. I've never said to the contrary. I've always been clear that it has to be dealt with when it's considered through the proper process. That would usually be a fiscal event. But, when it was being put to me that it's simply too expensive to do it, I acknowledge the cost. I mean, we do acknowledge the cost, and that's why we've got to do it properly. But I also am acutely aware of the ongoing impact of this policy, the urgency of making progress on this.
But if you win this contest and you have campaigned on saying that my priority is to lift the two-child benefit cap, and then it's not lifted in the budget, members will feel betrayed by that, won't they?
Well, I'm determined to do the right thing by children in our country. That's the most important thing. And members will be able to see that if I'm elected as deputy leader. I will do what is necessary to support children and families.
But you have to abide by collective responsibility. So if they don't lift the cap, will you stay in government? I mean...
I know what I'll be pushing for, and I'll be publishing with Pat McFadden, we'll be publishing the task force's report. On
your brief, when you look at what some of the things you've done, you've got expansion of childcare through, you've had 3 school meals coming through in breakfast clubs. It hasn't really... you're talking about telling the story. It just hasn't necessarily cut through in the way perhaps you would have wanted to. Is that fair?
I accept that to an extent. But also, I hear directly from voters on the doors. So I'm out speaking to voters a lot of the time and out campaigning in a lot of our seats. And actually, they do talk about the 30 hours and the difference it's making and how much money it's saving them. They do talk about the breakfast club at the school down the road and the impact it's having. It's not just abstract concepts, but real tangible change that people can see, they can experience, and that we can point to.
Okay. And I need to ask you about something that happened at the weekend, because you were... out on the media round, you did the Sunday round, and you were asked, obviously, to talk about Trump's peace deal, which you did, and then you talked about the role the US had played and also the role the UK had played. But you ended up being publicly rebuked by Mike Huckabee, the US ambassador to Israel, for not explicitly acknowledging Donald Trump's role in the peace deal. He put out quite an unkind tweet about you. I'm sure you saw it. He said you were delusional, and he said you can thank Donald Trump anytime. Did your heart sink when you sort of saw that unfolding, that you had ended up in some diplomatic spat that you didn't intend to end up in? Or maybe you did.
No, because I didn't intend for that, not least because I was clear in every interview that I did, the critical role that the US had played, including President Trump, whilst acknowledging the role that we had played as a nation.
It did cause a bit of a diplomatic incident, with then Steve Witkoff then tweeting the next day, who is the Middle East envoy, kind of in praise of Jonathan Powell after what had happened. I mean, what was that like for you? Was it uncomfortable? Well,
I had been clear about the role of President Trump in the US, But I mean, ultimately, what matters most in all of this is the fact that there is a deal and that we've seen the release of all of the surviving hostages. We hope that peace will endure, and as we now move to the next phase of what needs to happen to build a viable Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel. That is what matters most.
That is
not what people think I have or haven't said.
That's 100% what matters most. But what I'm sort of asking you about is, did you think, I've messed up here? Did you think, oh God, I've messed up, I've gone out, I meant to represent the government and somehow I've cocked this up?
I'm always self-critical, and you always want to reflect on how you've done things and do them better. But I was trying to convey the critical role that the US had played, and yes, acknowledging that we had a part to play. Of course, by no means the same as the US, but we do want to, as a government, do anything and everything that we can to support the next phase of the peace process.
Just in terms of Keir Starmer, if you do get this job, what's your relationship like with him? And do you think it will help get members' stuff directly put to him? Do you think you're close to him so it helps, grease the wheels, if you like?
We've got a good relationship. We get on well. I think Keir is a person of immense integrity who wants the best for our country. But we can have an honest kind of discussion about challenges, and I can set out what I believe needs to happen. And I do think that's helpful.
Before you go, Bridget, can you tell us anything about you that might surprise the listeners? Anything about you?
Many years ago, I was in the rock magazine Kerrang as their face in the crowd, getting very squashed at an Idlewild gig. And I got loads of freebies as a result, because you had to then send a photograph of yourself with the face in the crowd, and then you then got a bag of freebies sent to you.
And then you got a bag of goodies.
Got a bag of goodies.
I didn't know that. Have you got that picture somewhere?
I do.
Can you share it with us, maybe?
I will. Yeah, I've got the magazine.
That surprised me, because the thing I thought you might say is, was there a certain TV drama that you appeared in as a youngster? I've
done that one to death. I think
I didn't know it.
Okay. So I was an extra.
I literally love this. Just say it, please.
So I was an extra a couple of times in Biker Grove, just after the Ant and Dec era, but around that time.
I think being an extra in Biker Grove is like a badge of honour, because I used to watch it when I was a kid.
It was a rite of passage for lots of kids. I went to a drama class, like a 50 pence a week, local community centre drama class, and we all got to be extras.
So in another life, could you have been an actress?
Well, we all tried to get proper roles on Biker Grove, and sadly I was unsuccessful. So take from that what you will about my acting abilities.
Well, you've made a career quite successfully somewhere else. Well, look, Bridget, thank you for coming on our podcast and talking to us about the leadership race.